In this video, I'll be showing you how I turned this Hulk from Ragnarok into Hulk from Endgame. So before we begin completely, let me preface this by saying that I already have the armor on the left arm completely sanded off. I also removed the shoulder pad and the skirt. The helmet obviously is removable too, so I removed that. And I got some of the sandal details too, so that's all I did to get started. So I also have a little bit of paint on it, but besides that, let's get into it. So as you can see here, I already got a lot of the old armor sanded off, and I also got some of the paint of where the details are going to be, but I actually went over that completely to get more of a blank slate because it wasn't going to be necessary. I was going to sculpt over it either way. So as you can see, here's the blank slate. This is what we have to work with. But now we'll begin the sculpting stage, as you can see here. So I already have a lot of the bulk of the chest, sort of, a rough idea of how it's going to be. That main piece where, two main layers that there is, and then the belt as well is already sculpted. As you can see here, this is the clay that I will be using. It's a epoxy sculpt, and in order to have it harden, you have to mix equal parts of part A and part B. So as you can see there, I'm mixing them up. And yeah, now what I'm doing is sanding down everything smooth. So I wanted to really remove a lot of the bulk of the actual figure because I'm going to be adding clay either way in the entire body, all the legs, the arms. So what I really needed to do was remove a lot of the bulk, because if I just added it on top, it would have became extremely too bulky. And now this left arm was originally the one that had armor plating all throughout, so I really sanded it down, and I'm adding clay all throughout to really what I'm really starting to do is add the musculature. And then later on, what I will do is add the paneling and everything of the costume. But that's later down the road, once I have the whole arm more like formed out and more completed. As you can see here, just working a little bit on the leg, adding multiple bits of clay where needed, and then wetting that wooden tool I have, and then smoothing it down with water. It really smooths down nicely. And then now I'm sanding down all the details to really get it crisp, because once you sometimes they round off a little bit, so I'm just really sanding and coming with the X-Acto knife to really get those details nice and straight and really deep too, as much as I want them to be. And of course, it's a lot of back and forth too, I add a clay, I let it harden, then I sand it down, then I come back with clay again where it's still needed. And obviously, more intricate pieces like the gauntlet that I will be doing need a lot of passes, because it also this dries in 2 hours completely. It hardens in 2 hours. Not completely hard, but it's to the point where you can't really work it. Here I'm demonstrating what I said before, is to really smooth it down, add water, sand it down with my finger, and then with the actual wooden tool that I have, so that I don't have no fingerprints as well, because with my finger there will be fingerprints, and it's just not a good look, even though I will go over it with the sandpaper as I'm doing right now. So yeah, I'm just going over with the sandpaper, getting it nice, and obviously the easiest way to do it is with the Dremel tool. So just sanding it down, getting it smooth. For the next pass, where I believe I'm going to start getting into the paneling in the leg, and that's just me looking at the reference images that have mainly the Hot Toys figure that I had images of it, so it was much easier with that because there's various angles of it, and it gets all the necessary reference that I need. So finishing off a little bit more of a cleanup again, just coming in, crispening up those details, the X-Acto knife, getting it nice and deep, really getting that depth. And now beginning on every individual digit of the nano gauntlet. So it's a lot of small little details and coming back and forth, and like I said before, this will have multiple passes of mixing up clay and then getting it just right. But at this stage I'm just focusing on the fingers. That's the important part.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
As you can see, I'm now working on the arm, which is this is the idea was that this was post snap, so it was after the snap that Hulk did, so his arm is already burned. And so what I did is added clay. Well, first I sanded it down really skinny because I really needed to remove bulk, and then added clay into the arm. I texturized it so it looks like it's scarred muscle tissue, and then continuing on the gauntlet, getting where the mind stone would be, that little holder on there. Now I'm demonstrating how I did these little piping, the costume, the paneling. So I made a little noodle, then I wrapped it around the way I wanted it to go, the path that I needed to go. And then now I'm flattening it up with my tool, smoothing it down, and then later on I'll go back with sandpaper and the X-Acto knife to get it nice and crisp. So here's a little sneak peek of other figures that I have in the works, just a quick sneak peek. And then here's a bit more of a close-up of how ahead I am with the nano gauntlet, so it's coming up, it's coming together. And here's finishing off the inner side of it. So again, it's a lot of small detail work, a lot of again, looking back at reference images and just and also it's not an exact copy, so it's just sort of picking and choosing what details you want to keep and what you just it's not necessary. So now I'm adding complete gray base coat. I didn't want to go with black, I went with gray because that's the base coat of the actual suit. Could have gone with black to really get a lot of depth, but as you can see later, I chose to actually do washes and dry brushes to get depth, so that wasn't necessary. And now I'm just coming in the purple, all the purple sections, and then later on I come back and actually get a different, more blue tone of the purple. I wasn't happy with. In this, what I'm doing right now is too pink, so later I'll come in with the blue. And now I'm starting to base coat the complete, all the arm completely in a dark red, and that's the color that it was in the film. And then right now, as you can see, some of the joints were just sanded, and that's because I sanded them because I do want this to be posable. The whole reason that I did it on the action figure was so that it can it's like a statue that can move, and that's the whole point. So I wanted to be able to move without the paint chipping, so I sanded it with the Dremel, and then I'm coming back with some black paint to really to base coat it, and then later I'll go in with the actual color of whatever joint whatever color belongs there. As you can see here, when I said earlier about washes, so I mixed up black acrylic paint with the water, and then I put it in a big area. I'm about to do it right now, yep, right there. And then I come in with a rag, wipe off all the axis, and all the crevices are drenched in that black paint. And then I'm coming in with the dry brushing. So basically, you load up your brush with a lighter gray, you get it nice and dry, and then you come back over it. That'll get all the recessed spots of the sculpt. And then finishing off the purple, and I liked this tone of the purple. It was nice and vibrant and very punchy. And you can see right there, I have the reference images of the hot toy. And then just finishing off the leg, getting the black details as well. And that was that, just finishing up the lighter piping. And now what I'm doing is actually, I wanted to add the individual energy surges coming from the gauntlet directly onto the arm. And later on I actually go over in the very middle with white so that it looks like it's glowing. Finishing off the left leg sculpt. So I think that's the last bit of sculpting that I did on this, so I was just finishing that off. I was a bit behind on the leg. I had already painted everything else, and now I'm doing just a green, it's a very vibrant green base coat on the face. I also did the toes, and then now I'm doing just the black. It looks like a sock. I don't know. I didn't design it. But now I'm just finishing up the hair, getting it all, the base coat black, And then I'll coming back now with, like I mentioned before, the dry brushing. So I got a lighter tone of green, mixed up with the white, loaded up the brush and then cleaned it off so that it's dry, and then it only gets the recesses of the sculpt. And it really adds depth and really makes it look more three-dimensional. And then finishing off the eyebrows was pretty simple. As you can see, I actually added a little bit of stubble too, a little bit of details, and I also dry brushed the hair. Just putting in the whites of the eyes as well, finishing off the pupils, and also added a little white speck in the middle to really give it life. It's kind of difficult, this head was very small, so I really get the nitty gritty, but I think I did my best. Now what I'm doing is applying clear coat on both the head and the leg. As you can see, I put it on these little, on the leg I put it on a little hanger so I could hang it on my pegboard so that it wouldn't touch nothing and it could easily dry. And the head, I just stuck it on some monster clay and stuck that on a toothpick. So now on the gauntlet, I already had the whole figure taped up, and I sprayed it with some all clad glossy black paint. So that was just to get a nice glossy base coat for the gauntlet. Once again, finishing up the sculpt on the left leg, last bit of sculpting, and then base coat with the gray. Coming back on the gauntlet, and now coming in with the silver all clad plate. Finishing off the final details of this leg, so finally got to painting it. Applied gray. So after the silver dried on the gauntlet, I just came back in with some red transparent paint, also from All Clad. So just finish that off. And then continuing on with the little details of the silver bits. I was gonna add the actual infinity stones, but I have an idea for a way I'm gonna display this with the other figures that I have in the works. So you will see that very soon. So here's the final product, all wrapped up. As you can see, there's the energy surging from the nano gauntlet and everything. I had applied everything with the clear coat completely on the figure. It was a matte one, and then on the gauntlet I sprayed with it was a glossy clear coat, so really get that metallic, feel to it. And if you guys are enjoying content like this, I have more of it on the way. The other set of characters that I mentioned, and of course I have paintings as well on the way, so stay tuned.